meeting?
Meeting is now streaming live on YouTube.
Oh, okay. Well,
Whoa.
Maybe we did it.
oh, okay.
Here we are, live on the
Here
internet.
we are. Oh my gosh.
Welcome, welcome, internet.
We're here today with the Hylo product team, at least half of it. And we are having a Hylo redesign collabathon integration session. In this session, we are looking through a lot of the insights that came out of the first wave of collabathon sessions to integrate all of that insight and translate it into a list of hypotheses and experiments that we can implement in Hylo to achieve the goals of the redesign and to test against those hypotheses. So the priority areas that we are looking at are usability, mobile, fit to purpose, onboarding, and discoverability. And we're about halfway, roughly halfway through, or maybe just a third of the way through, integrating everything from the sessions. We've talked a lot about usability already, a fair amount as a team. Yesterday, we dove into fit to purpose a little bit. And so we don't have like a firm agenda for how we're going to use this time, but I have some ideas. We are working in one big canonical shared doc to develop this one big list of everything we want to do. And then we're going to prioritize and create a timeline and look at like how much of this can we do with the time and resource that we have. So there are maybe a few more items in usability we could go back to. We could talk about mobile. Or just based on who's in the room, we could jump around, or we could talk about onboarding, we could talk about discoverability. Aaron and Tibet, what feels alive to you?
Well, I'd love to hear Tibet first.
I mean, the most alive conversation for me is this one about our overall kind of data architecture or the spaces for conversation and how we organize them within within groups. So how we want to handle chats, topics, posts, groups, subgroups. There's just like such a major core piece of the redesign, and I think we need to nail it.
Yeah.
So we could spend today on that. It's also a conversation that would be great to have Tom for, but there will be more than one. Other than that, I mean, we haven't gone into onboarding or discoverability at all, so we could dive into there.
Yeah, and those topics I think would be especially good for Krisha or Yasmin to be in the space as well. Not that we can't talk about them now. Just a thought.
On the usability front, I think the one we didn't get to there's improved direct messages, which relates a little bit to what I was just talking about. And then the like beauty or joy kind of UI style aspect of everything. We didn't really get into that yet.
Yeah. We talked about that a little bit. Yeah, okay. Do you want to talk about DMs? You can pretty much just dive in anywhere.
Right. Well, we left off under here, right? Fit to purpose is.
Yeah,
first.
your events.
That's. Yeah. I mean, part of where I've been in the last few days is just sort of like trying to think about the primitives that make up Hylo. Like, what are these basic components?
Mm.
And sort of just like, how do we weave them all together? Kind of what that was saying. But you were approaching it from a data architecture standpoint. I guess it's like all of it is now kind of loaded into my RAM. And now it's sort of like, okay, how do we make it all harmonious? And the integrations is kind of where we left off right after events. We were talking about integrating different services.
Mhm.
And yeah, I guess I wanted to just, I have a lot to say about that. And that would be interesting for me because, you know, I hear it in, you know, Tom's latest posts. There's just like, okay, but what does this congeal into? What does it turn into? How does it look? How does it work? All these ideas are great, but how do we land on a coherent way of approaching this?
Mm.
And so there's like this way, looking through all of the information we gathered is sort of like atomizing, like blowing out all of the issues and looking at them one by one.
Mhm.
And then I think there's also a step where we take a step back and try to like
Yeah.
arrange it.
Yeah, I really like that. What came to mind for me when you were speaking and what Tibet was mentioning off the bat is just like, what is like the highest level question we can be asking, or like the most important question we can be asking? Because all of the like smaller details are going to flow from that, and many of them are going to be dictated by that explicitly. So I'm really happy to dive into the architecture conversation about like, what is a group versus a chat versus a post, and all these questions in here, which if you click on Tibet, yes, right there. Does that feel good, Tibet and Aaron?
Sounds great.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Good.
One thing that could be helpful, just as a reminder, I'll quickly share. Oh, can someone give me screen sharing?
Oh yeah, sorry. Can you speak up a little bit?
Oh, I can turn them up.
Maybe my volume is down.
Screen advanced, all participants. All right, try again.
Yeah, so just remind quickly about some of my thoughts that I've written up in this document, which is kind of thinking about the redesign from this orientation of like, what are the primitives?
Yeah.
So we have groups. This is sort of like currently groups, posts, chats, which are really just posts without titles, comments, which currently are associated with a post, have kind of less different types of attributes from then posts and can be threaded. There's topics and DMs. And then there's sort of a different way of thinking about this where I'm looking at the different kind of pros and cons of each of these. And I go into actually specific post types as well, like requests and offers, resources, events, projects, proposals. And maybe in the future we would have pages or tasks. And then the like ways of interacting with these different content types. Currently we have the stream. Each post is its own little interaction space with comments, the map, direct messages, chat rooms, which are currently topic based. And then we have these other views like the home view and the group directory, group explorer. And then again, the sort of like pros and cons. And so here is where I think we can start to think through like why might we have these different spaces? So the stream, for example, some of the advantages are you can change the sorting algorithm of it. It can like aggregate data from different places, and maybe have like longer, richer conversations in it more easily than a chat room. Group chat, it's fast and easy. Lots of people are familiar with it. There's some really interesting things about like how people get added to these different spaces. Like right now, getting added to a group, you get invited, but then you have to consent to it. Whereas like a lot of chat spaces like WhatsApp, someone can just add you to it and you're just in it. And then there's like, topic-based chat rooms like Slack. When you get added to a room, you can see past content. But like WhatsApp or like most DMs, you can't see past content. And part of that is on purpose because maybe it was encrypted and there's no way you could possibly see it. So this is kind of where my mind is at a lot. It's like, what different types of spaces do we need? Do we want chat rooms that anyone can be added to, where you can see past content, DMs where it's, a specific set group of people and new people can't see past content? Do we still want to stream? Yeah. And how to like topics and posts, and potentially chat rooms as their own separate type of space relate to all of that.
Okay, well, I have a thought. This is amazing. Thank you. One thing I've noticed is that the chat gets used very little, and there's a lot of reasons for that, which we know. Probably for the most part, that's kind of tucked away. But it seems like the topic-based chat is especially not used very much. And I would be open to doing away with specific topic-based chat within a group for the next phase of Hylo, just because we're at a point where I guess this is like an assumption or a hypothesis maybe, but it seems like the groups aren't really at a level of coordination where having multiple topic chats is necessary right now. And just having one general chat in a group and getting people to engage in that actively, that would be like a milestone. And then if we get to a point where that is happening a lot and people are demanding different topics, then we could roll out that later. I don't know. Not that we need to delete something that's already there, but I guess my hypothesis is that it's just not really needed right now in the evolution of Hylo and the groups.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I agree with that. I think that like having the general chat room that everyone in the group is automatically added to,
Yes.
that's much easier to find and always visible. And and we've talked about having it be actually the default view that you land on. It seems like a really good experiment.
I guess I really appreciate both of these points and resonating. And the way I've been kind of approaching this is not, and it's really helpful to see your thinking, Tibet, is like a lot of the things you're talking about, Tibet, are like needed for different groups at different times. And we've talked about this evolutionary part of things, and it's like where I keep returning to is like, what is the primitive that builds up to these things, to needing topics, to needing organization and categories and lists. Like what is the primitive that leads to 100 posts? Because that's really when a lot of what we've built becomes useful, is at a larger scale. And from the very beginning, Hylo was designed around network effects, which require, tens of thousands of people. And we never saw those network effects happening because the primitive part wasn't ready. Like the basic part that got people to the point where they wanted to post 100 posts wasn't ready. And what is it? Like, honestly, the vision that's crystallizing is, is informed by everybody's, for me, it's informed by everybody's contributions. But I love the idea of getting rid of topic-based chats and just starting with a general discussion. And what can you put in there? You can put, well, let's take a step back. Like, okay, let's say we start with a chat as a way to start a group. Like that's the most basic primitive way of coordinating, is having communication in real time or over time. And you add, in my experience with these chat rooms, I've done them for now 30 years or whatever, like people start adding stuff to the chat, links, photos, documents, pointing to things outside. And I've been thinking about, okay, so if we move away from topic-based chats and de-emphasize the stream, the posts are still going to be happening. People are posting stuff in every chat I'm a part of. And it's hard to find things once they've gone up. It's hard to keep track of a conversation that's now 3 days old. It's like now I have to scroll, get back to the thread. And so I've been thinking about, like, okay, so Hylo is actually designed really well to accommodate this problem, which is to organize posts. And if we take a step back from what a post is, right now we have post types, but anything that somebody posts that's not a message could be a post subject to organization. For instance, if we post Figma links into our general chat, the option to categorize them and put them in the sidebar could appear. And all links could appear in a menu item in the sidebar. And then as the chat becomes filled up, all of a sudden the sidebar starts filling up with organization of the different things that happened in the discussion. And getting rid of topic-based chats, fine. Groups will still need the ability in the future to make additional conversations. Now, we've talked about adding subgroups, but I think that's slightly different. Even though I think that is a really good idea and we should go in that direction, we have the discussion post type. This could be the way people create offshoot rooms. And then as soon as you create a discussion post type, now you have discussions in the menu as well. And things start to get organized out of the complexity of the general chat. And to me, this is a way to tie at least some of the things that you both brought up together in a really neat way. Like we use the post types that we have to their like discussions become chat rooms. They become a discussion space. And anything that gets put in to anywhere in the group gets organized. So if I reply to a discussion with a link, it gets added to the links. If I place a Figma file, it starts adding to the Figma file organization. And then as far as integrations are concerned, there's the ability for certain types of posts to have additional functionality with integrations. And I think this could be really powerful, where it's like you add a bunch of Figma files to your or Miro boards to your or let's say you add one Miro board to your group, a message pops up saying, would you like to integrate with Miro? And instead of taking you out of Hylo to go to this resource, which is how it works in every app, now you can just edit it in place.
Yeah.
And what Hylo is then, it's sort of the connective tissue between the group and all of the things they need to touch. And it's trying to bring things closer to the group so that it takes less time for them to coordinate. Those are some of the ideas I've been doing.
I love that.
Yeah.
As you were talking, I just put in the chat, like I was thinking, as soon as, you know, a first event gets added, then the calendar view appears. As soon as the first discussion gets added, maybe it's like a forum. I mean, a lot of people have come to us being like, we want forum like interface.
Forum. We need a forum.
Right.
It is a forum.
Yeah.
That is like the discussion posts, although still a little bit unclear. Like, I think the main difference with forums is that they're like organized by category. Like the discussions are organized by category, and those categories are like defined in an organized way by the group. So we'd have to think about if we try and do something like that with our discussions. And that could be where topics come back in.
Yeah.
But then as soon as you create a proposal, there's like the decisions view that appears. In the future, maybe we'll have tasks, which creates like a Kanban board. And then the resource library could be resource posts, but also where it organizes all the different links and images that have been posted. And like you said, like all the Figma links could be organized in one area, like it could be organized by type or by domain. And then there could be a place where all the open asks and offers are, and that's opportunities or mutual aid or something. It'd be super cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love it.
And of course, a group leader can go in and set up those things ahead of time if they want, but otherwise it's as easy as creating a group and you just jump right into chatting and here's the link. Can you start working on this next week? But I just think that you get it. You get it.
Yeah, I love this. I think the one part that we still have to figure out there is how do we tell people they can create a discussion and make it easy for them to know to do that or to do that, like, and also I assume they should be able to like convert like a chat with, let's say we're still calling them a chat or a message that's just like you type some stuff in and then it's like, oh, I want to turn this into a discussion, add a title, add some whatever topics, a location. Like, yeah, we just need to make that part of the experience also seamless and easy to like discover.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that deals with like onboarding and like what kind of like very simple welcome to the group widget wizard or whatever we do.
Yeah.
But like
AI could come in here at some point.
right now, when you click plus on a new message, it comes up on WhatsApp with a set of options. One of those is a document. One of those is a poll. Those could be our post types. The same place you would add an image is where you would add an event and so on. Or if the post type is a certain thing, maybe some of those menu objects, like, here, I'll share my screen real quick. Okay, here we go. Desktop to share. Okay. So for instance, we could have, like, if this was a request, or oops, say this was a request, we just clicked on request here instead. This isn't the same design I was just showing you, but like, imagine we are selecting request, and then all of a sudden it's not just title down here. There's like a date, add a date. So that the this could be the way that people create posts, is just the same way you create a message. And you add components to the post according to your needs.
Yeah.
Rather than a modal that takes you out of the place where you are, it's sort of you go to the place where you want to put it and then start writing.
Yeah. I like that.
Yep. Cool.
Yeah, I'm gonna put that under simplicity. Redesign post creation with a simpler UX. Go to where you want to post.
And so when you first arrive in a group, maybe it's just the general chat and the members in the sidebar. And as the members grow, it collapses down into a menu object that lets you go to the member space. And
Do you think that, sorry, were you finished?
yeah. That was just an idea that came out of my mouth.
I mean, I do think that the idea of having subgroups there, especially like, and it could just be ones that the group, you know, stewards choose, like these are the subgroups we want people to know about, or that they can join, or ones that like everybody automatically joins, or things like that, could also go in the sidebar for new folks.
Okay, I'm putting that in discoverability. So like group stewards can say like what subgroups they want to show up in the nav.
Kind of like pinned ones.
Yeah.
Well, I really love how Discord lets you totally customize the sidebar. Like on Discord, let me show you it. Here's a good example.
Yeah.
Here's HoloChain's developer portal. And it's like you can add headings, which allows you to collapse the sections. And when you collapse it, it collapses all the ones that have unreads, but it keeps the ones it collapses all the things that have no unread material in them.
And keeps the ones that are
and keeps the ones that are unread. And of course, this is not like the organizational pattern that I think we're going to end up with, but it is interesting. And another one I wanted to show you all was Arc. So this is a totally different way of, this is a new web browser.
Oh yeah. Cool.
And you can organize things here. And it makes way more sense to like put a column rather than a row at the top, because that takes up a lot of your space relative to the height of the viewport. Anyway, I really think that this pattern of like collapsing things and opening them in the sidebar could work for a lot of different post types. In other words, we don't need another view for many things. We could just show a list of things in the sidebar. And I don't know how far down in that direction we would want to go, but this is a really cool app.
Cool.
Okay, I'm putting that in usability.
Because, okay, what are streams designed for? Or sorry, feeds, which is what our stream is modeled after. It's designed to get people into a flow where you're just sort of going. You keep going and you keep going. And that pattern is really good for our public stuff, for finding new groups, finding new content, finding new people. You want to be looking through a lot of options. But for coordination, that's not what you want. You don't want your workers to get lost in a sea of content. No, you want them to like find the thing that they need right away.
Yeah.
And so those are kind of like, the stream is kind of pushing against that need in some ways, or at least when we consider what fit to purpose means. Plenty of groups are using the stream in a really powerful way. I don't mean that those uses are bad. It's more that for the coordination piece of this, we want people to scroll until they find the right thing and then join the project or go to the event. Yeah. And it makes me wonder about the stream, the utility of the stream. For instance, I heard, maybe it was in one of our meetings, somebody talked about, I forget the name of the app, but it was when you signed into the app, it put up cards of all the stuff you hadn't seen yet. And you could just swipe through it. Once you've seen it, boom, and then you're up to date. And
well,
then
the new Slack has that.
Slack has that.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that to me sounds like a really cool direction to go in instead of a stream, which is like just delivering you the things that you haven't seen in a way that is consumable in a very quick way. So you're all caught up and then you can jump back into what you were doing.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I still think we may want the stream view for like the all groups view where you're looking at all the content across all your groups and possibly
or public.
Yeah. And also maybe in the my home area where it's, well, I guess that's similar. It's like, yeah, all your content across all your groups. Yeah. So it's sort of like the swiping thing works really well on mobile. On desktop, we'll probably still want like just an unread section as well. That's like all of the content within the group or all the content across all your groups that's unread, and that could look more like a stream.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it would be cool if the daily digest was not just delivered to your email, but like when you arrived, also given to you. And yeah, swiping obviously doesn't work on a phone, or with a mouse, but click through does. And I do like showing somebody one thing at a time because it's just respectful of their attention.
Mm-hmm.
But
Yeah.
agreed on all the points, just like, yeah, it's still useful and we still need it for certain things, but it's not, as far as the purpose of a stream goes, it's not fit to every purpose. Yeah.
Yeah. Can we talk about direct messages for a moment?
Yeah.
As it relates to all this? I think this is a place where ultimately maybe in the future we adopt, we work with Matrix, we adopt maybe the Signal protocol and have encryption or use or sort of integrate with an existing platform instead of trying to rebuild it all ourselves. But in the short term, I think we still need to just kind of build on what we have now. But it needs to be a lot more powerful. I mean, we don't like we need to add reactions, we need to add images, like just the basic stuff that is expected and exists across the platform in other places. So I think there's a couple questions like and we did talk about this a little bit, like where do we want that interface to live? Is it completely separate from the groups? I think we landed on yes, we want it to be separate from the groups. And then in terms of the UI, UX, do you all like agree that this is a place where like one of the main differences is that if you like add someone to a group, they can't see past content. It's kind of like creating a new group.
To a message group?
Yeah.
I I don't really have a strong opinion about that. I mean, I think sometimes people would want that and sometimes they might not.
Well,
I mean, I think just having messages load really fast would be like the main leverage point.
Yes, that has to happen.
yeah, let's assume it's fast.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, from my perspective, it is like creating a new chat. In other words, if I have a chat with just you, Tibet, and I invite somebody to it, if I start another chat with just you, it's a new chat, right?
Right.
But in other words, it's not like going back to that previous one before we branched off and added someone. I think, but whether we show what happened before or not, I feel like I'm less clear about that. Unless there's a technical reason why we couldn't, I wonder what reasons people would want that.
Well, privacy and security. I mean, again, it's like normally the technical reason is that if it's encrypted, then there's no way for new people to see old content, but that's also the desired effect. I guess what I'm saying is, if we improve the group creation flow and make it much easier to invite people during that process, then there's not a lot of a difference between creating a new group and creating a DM group. The main differences could be that the DMs are the place where if you add new people, they can't see past content. So it's like it's a little bit more of a like private bubble. And currently DM groups don't have titles. They're just the list of people. And that's something we could debate or not. But I guess, I'm kind of trying to like ascertain the difference between a DM group and just a group in Hylo.
Yeah. Well, I think if we're definitely going to end up end-to-end encrypted, so we may as well get people used to that pattern now. I do think this is another like sort of evolutionary potential moment where it's sort of like we've talked a lot about in the past about just even in this phone call of like being able to convert something into a low or something that's low complexity, like a chat message, into a high complexity post. And I'm wondering, just as you were talking, like, oh, we've talked about being able to start a group from a DM. And if that was on the table, obviously things would change once you click that button. But prior to that, I think it's great to have the more private, encrypted experience, even though we're not encrypted yet.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Next piece is topics. So if we're shifting to just having a general.
Wait a sec. Can someone summarize what we just like decided there, if anything, about DMs? Like we're okay with them not showing the past.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the main difference between them and other groups.
Okay. But there's like a button to like start a group from this message group or something.
Not necessarily, but we've talked about that.
But that's something we could do in the future.
Yeah.
Okay, great.
I like that idea.
Thinking it through, like, okay, how is this group different? And is there some way for those groups to change?
And basically, it's going to be structured as a group on the back end. Is that where we're getting to here?
I don't know yet. I mean, right now it's structured as a post. Just
I
given,
think I think everything should be a group,
uh,
just like different types of group.
the
Wouldn't
time,
that be good?
that was actually when we first took over Hylo, they were moving in that direction, and we kind of undid that because it was kind of unnecessarily complex at the time. Like they had groups set up for posts um, that weren't
Right.
really being used in any meaningful way. But
That makes sense. Maybe not for posts.
no, I mean, I understand that. I think it's just a question of like timeline and is it worth trying to do that architectural change right now, as opposed to focusing on just making DMs faster and having reactions and images, which since right now a DM is a post with comments, we already have the ability to do reactions and images and comments. It just hasn't been turned on in that context. We don't have the sort of UI for it designed.
Okay, so right now the main things are making it more performant, adding emoji reactions, and adding comments / threading.
And adding images and attachments.
Images and attachment. Okay, what about editing?
Yeah, I mean, editing, that's sort of another question. It's like in the DM context, people are used to, well, now editing has been added to Signal and WhatsApp, but usually only for a certain amount of time. So yeah, we could have editing for now.
I mean, I think it's a nice to have.
Yeah.
I don't think it's a must have. Cool. Great. All right. Sorry I just wanted to make sure like I'm getting the state of the conversation in the notes. Yeah. Okay, you were wanting to move on to
topics.
Topics.
So if we are reorienting to have like one main chat room that everyone starts in, what happens to topics? Like, do we still have topic-based chat rooms as an option that people can use? And what is the UI for like creating them, finding them? And if we don't have that, like, what is the utility of topics? Like, can you still search? Do we make it like easier to search by them in some way? Or filter by them? Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, one thing I've been thinking is that, you know, the topics browser is another example of planning for when a group is highly complex. Once it has 300 posts, you really need topics to figure out what to look at. And it's also good from a discoverability standpoint because you can do a match against people's interests. So the topics are great. However, there are 4 groups that we only have a few of them. And I'm not even sure how useful it is to those groups that are big enough to actually benefit from these network level systems.
Well, we have a few people joining the chat. We have Krisha is in the space, and we have a Gani, which I think could be our friend Vivek. So I just wanted to pause and say hello and welcome to Krisha and Gani. And just let you know that we're talking about topics and topic-based chat in Hylo.
Hi, Vivek.
Hey. And it's actually great because you could ask your question again and see if anyone else wants to weigh in.
Which one?
Just about like the utility of that for a group.
Yeah. I'm curious to hear. Oh, it's all good, Vivek. So we were just talking about topics and how to incorporate them into the new design. One of our hypotheses is that topics are really useful once you have a lot of information, a lot of data, a lot of posts. And for most groups that are smaller, it's going to be a long time before they generate enough information to need to be able to navigate through that information with topics. And I guess I'm wondering if that's true in your experience, how useful topics have been, or is it more of an afterthought?
Are you asking me directly or?
Yeah, you're the
In my experience, so people had probably started to leverage things like search and Mighty Networks eventually had a hashtag feature, but there was the question of how do you approach that feature with a large body of information? Like, it's like, who do we trust to like edit old posts to add in something like a hashtag or something? You know, there's a bit of a trust element around that. And then there's the thing around what scope a topic is. Like, there is always that tension of like, we didn't want something to be too specific or it needed to be refactored later on. And this wasn't for the sake of using topics as an appendix to as an annotation to a post, but for what a space is what my networks had is like what space does a thing like. I did a big refactoring back in fall of last year, and it was just there were like some questions we had to revisit and say like, well, we actually want to be like one thing to be some posts to have or a topic in this case to be more encompassing than what it originally was, I guess. So just like, how do you design for the ability to eventually be somewhat refactoring friendly? I guess that's another thing that comes up.
Yeah, this has definitely come up in a lot of our discussions with community leaders, is sort of like wanting to be able to control the topics, rename them, and have that renaming apply to every place it's used. And of course, that's a little bit different than how hashtags work, which is the expectation around hashtags is that I can add it to my thing and it makes it indexable in some way. But what can happen there is that I put UI-UX and the official topic is UI-UX, no dash. And now we've got a divergent stream of information and it's like, ugh, but they should be the same bucket. And then as a community leader, you either have to squelch that topic that I created or ask me to modify my post to include the correct topic, or you go and add a reply with the right topic in the hopes that it gets indexed. Well, and I guess, yeah, go ahead.
Could I ask a question? Are you thinking of topics in terms of like, it is a folder that it goes into, or is it a tag where you can compose?
That's kind of the question. What are these folders and a means of categorization, or is it more of an ad hoc tagging system that bubbles up information that may be useful or may be noisy? In the case of the UI UX thing, it's like that happens a lot where I don't know the right hashtag that the community has already used. I make a new post, blah, 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 blah. And okay, maybe that adds a little bit of noise, but is it in the end better to have a rigid system that people contribute to and have to understand? Or is it better to have a fluid system that people can contribute to without understanding, but it creates noise?
Well, the way Mighty Networks did that is they had what they call featured hashtags, where you could say it was done via the search bar at the top. When that's another discussion of whether that's a good user flow or not. But like, it's like people could make the noise, but there was some degree of like the host or moderator to curate some things a little bit to say, oh, these are really the prime ones that you see at first. So
yeah, and we have something similar right now with like the stewards being able to set a like pinned topics and suggested topics. And the suggested topics are the first ones that show up in the post editor when you're going to create a post. And that helps a lot. But what's coming forward for me right now is that like, I'm cool with people having random hashtags that they create at any time, but I don't think that those should just automatically create a chat channel.
Yeah.
That feels like too much signal.
Just to bring this up, one more thing we had to deal with was spam.
Yeah.
And that persisted into the hashtag. So if I deleted a post that used like 100 different hashtags, even if I deleted it, they would still persist in the Mighty Networks database.
Oh my
So when somebody typed in hashtag to create their hashtag, you ended up with like these Thai terms or sex worker terms. It was just like, it was a bug in Mighty Networks then, but it was a really annoying one. So
Hey, even the big guys struggle.
I know, of course. And they do. And that's
$100 million doesn't stop the bugs.
no, completely. Yeah. I mean, yeah, I just think there's a balance here between like distributing the power, but also letting stewards curate a space. And there is a difference between like hashtag whatever like trend is trending versus hashtag this is like where we're going to talk about finances.
Mhm.
And it seems to me, so before you joined Vivek and Krisha, I shared a vision of, I'll just share it again real quick, just 1 minute. So let's say we do away with topic-based chat rooms and each group has just one general chat, kind of like Mighty has. And the discussion post type becomes a way to create new chat rooms. So instead of all the chat rooms being in topics, they are now a post type that is organized in the sidebar. And that can have any title. It doesn't need to have a hashtag title like in Discord or Slack. It can be a string of characters or a sentence or a question.
Well, could it just start? Maybe it starts out with just the people it's composed of. I know, like Telegram or some platforms just do that.
Main chat would be that.
Yep.
But if you wanted to have a sub discussion, what do? Right now in Hylo, you would create a new topic to discuss that, just like in Slack or Discord. And that topic is a hashtag or a pound sign with a string that has no spaces in it. Let's say we get rid of that. And topics are mainly a way to tag content that you could search for.
Mm-hmm.
The discussion post type could replace that topic-based chat with more, whatever people want to talk about. It doesn't have to fit into that hashtag paradigm. And I'm curious how that would land for you, Vivek and Krisha, hearing that. Obviously,
Well,
Krisha.
also to add that we want to make it much easier to create and find and organize subgroups. And so if you're trying to create a subspace with a specific set of people, you would just create a group and that would appear in the navigation, like which you can already do, but just make that much simpler to both create and find within the group. So that would be one way to create a like subspace. And then the discussion that Aaron's talking about would be more of a like, this is a very specific titled discussion topic that we want to have within this group that anyone could participate in and join.
And could itself be tagged with a hashtag or a topic tag, but it's not how it's organized. It's not organized in the sidebar. Not every topic has a stream of chat, which nobody uses.
Right, exactly. Because like we have right now, we just have all these channels that have been created because someone one time used it in their post. But that doesn't mean that anyone ever intended there to be ongoing conversation about that topic tag.
Yeah.
So that should not be happening, in my humble opinion.
Yeah.
Krisha.
I love this so much. Sorry I'm late. That call ran way over. I love the idea of not having every topic create a chat room, because that's the noise that makes my brain want to explode.
Yeah.
So if we can create a distinction between the chat rooms and the topics as chat rooms, I think that would be super helpful for ease of use for the chat rooms, like people knowing where to go to have the right chat, and just making it a more seamless, clean experience. And I also appreciate that people can still use those topics. And maybe we have it like we do now, which is you click on a topic, you'll see all the posts, or I guess it'll just be posts that have that topic.
Yeah, I wanted to show our map interface as one way we could still, and maybe we should distinguish here when we say topics, like talk about them as hashtags in this case.
Yeah.
Because we're kind of blurring a few different ideas here. So in the map, the way we use our hashtag topics is you just click up here and then it shows you all the ones that are used within the current view. This is maybe not the best example because there's not enough content here, but
Go to public.
yeah. So then I can filter by farm. And so we could do that within the general chat room, or within any view, even just be able to like easily filter by hashtag.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, in general, I've been thinking a lot about our search bar and how it can be revamped and reimagined. Because I think, yeah, I've been working on this AI project called Civi. I think you may all know about this except for Vivek. I'll just put the link in here. And one of the really interesting things that's come out of this is just an understanding of a new search paradigm called vector search. And it's basically where you can give the model any data, and it can put the relationships between the words or information in that data into a vector space. So it sort of abstracts away from the meaning of what the words mean to their structure and how they're shaped. And it can compare that to a large pool of documents or objects and find similar shapes. This is different than what we're talking about right now, which is keyword search, which is what the current internet is based on.
By shapes, do you mean phrases? Because I know that can be a challenge of going from words to phrases at times.
And so the way search engines break down a phrase is you break it down into the words and you search for the keywords, or you search for groups of those keywords. And relevancy is how much of the phrase is actually found. That's how it kind of works right now. Under vector search, I could say something that like you can do things like this. I could upload my bio, my diary, my LinkedIn profile, and it would turn all of that into a vector, which is the shape of me, rather than the words themselves. It is abstracting the relationships between the words in my bio, and that can be used to find people who are like me. And this is different than how social search works right now on Facebook, which is in a graph. It puts us all on a map, and it says, oh, Krisha and Tibet and Aaron know Vivek, but Claire does not. She should be introduced to him. And so she gets a notification saying, here's a suggested friend. But what it could be in the future is that Claire uploads her bio, you upload your bio, and the system could say, actually, they both love chess, or they both love drawing. And you never had to write a keyword. You never had to type a thing like that. And so in a world where vectorized search is more more widely used, it's right now only beginning to be used in these bleeding edge LLM use cases. do tags make sense? Like
Right.
when what we want is for somebody to say what they want and for it to be found. Whereas tags are, it's an affordance to help people bootstrap that process and be like, here's some popular hashtags related to this search. Instead, we want people to be like, I'm looking for X so that I can do Y. What groups can I join, or what pieces of content should I see on the platform? And I guess all this to say that hashtags themselves may not be the right tool for what we're talking about. Anyway.
Or for the future.
Or for the future.
They're a tool of the past, for sure.
Yeah.
But they're a tool that makes sense for like our human brain computers.
Yeah.
That like AIs don't need.
Right.
So, but just because like the Hylo of the future might be AI powered doesn't mean that like human ability to navigate is not important.
Right. Well, because a hashtag is a vector. It is a like placeholder for a whole network of information. But the problem that we're running into is that you like either have to know about it ahead of time in order for it to be useful, or use it. Go ahead, Vivek.
Does it inherently depend on this like cultural shift towards like human profilicity though? Like what you're defining here is I have to define this profile of self to some degree, or at least through some writing of my own, right?
Yeah, well, I guess in the case of finding posts, for instance, we could vectorize a post very easily. It's not a computationally expensive process. And you could say instead of having users put in the hashtag, they just get added out automatically. That's one way we could do this. We can vectorize it ourselves and be like, this is about this. And it should be in this location on the map. It doesn't have to be for introducing people to each other. It can also be useful for finding resources or anything really. And I just gave that example as a way of leading into the topic.
Or just having ideas bump into each other. Like,
yeah,
I'm one of those people that writes like these comments that's like, oh, here's this LinkedIn post that's talking about wikis. There's this other guy that I know that's also talking about it. And there's this other subsite. I'm just trying to sometimes just link people together to things.
Right.
You know?
Right. And I guess what I'm saying is that the search could be helpful for that rather than an afterthought because right now, at least for me, I use search when I know what I'm looking for. I don't use it when I'm like, can you just show me something to discover? So I know the name of it, or I know, in other words, I'm looking for a document or a post or a person or something. I have the keyword already in my mind. That's how I use search. And what I guess I'm saying is that it could be more useful for that case that you're doing it as a human, which is like, I see this conversation happening here. I see this conversation happening here. You guys should meet. The computer could possibly assist in that effort, or take some of the heavy lifting off of your plate.
In theory, yeah, it's always that tension between like entrusting that computer and having this fear that I'm going to atrophy my own skill set, but that's a whole other conversation.
Oh, this is real.
People have tended to call me like that librarian though, and it's like that's also not good because other people are not tending to their own bookmarks and things, so it's like they're relying on me. So yeah.
Well, that brings me to in this next iteration of this redesign, we've been talking about discussions being the place where we organize conversations outside of like the general chat flow. And then I guess, if we're sort of deprioritizing hashtags, but maybe still offering them as a way to search and filter, do we still want some way for curation and custom organization by group stewards to be able to happen? Again, like a lot of people come to us being like, we want like a forum part of our group. And to me, that's just a set of discussions organized by certain top level categories. And so we could offer that still. We could say like stewards can set up their the top level categories, and then when someone creates a discussion, there's like just like a drop down of like choose which top level category this goes into, or maybe it can go into multiple. That would be one way to do that, and then we the sort of like forum would be navigatable by those like folders basically. And or we like right now we have these custom views which allow people, the group stewards, to curate a set of posts either by manually by like saying that this post goes into this kind of bucket or folder or view, or they can do it by searching by hashtag right now. Do we still believe that that is a useful way to do it, and how would that like fit into the
Yes,
redesign navigation?
yes.
Yeah,
I fully think yes. And I think that those two could be the same thing under the redesign. Like the custom view could have an option which is like show this in list form in the sidebar rather than,
That's what we have already.
well, no, it shows a link to a view.
Mm-hmm.
Rather than a, but it could be a header with a list. In the
Direct.
sidebar.
getting back to that idea earlier about the drop downs,
Right.
sidebar.
Yeah.
That would accomplish the same goal as the first option that you offered.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Okay, so just to summarize this area, it feels like we're getting a little bit possibly outside the scope of the redesign, although I appreciate your forward thinking
We're gonna get left behind.
stuff. So every group starts with a general chat channel. We no longer create chat channels every time someone uses a new topic. Stewards can set specific chat channels. And those would show up on the sidebar. And so that meets like the need to meet groups where they are in their evolution, I think. Like the stewards can be creating channels if they need that, but otherwise we don't just like create that. So that could be like, that could be a new tool inside of the admin panel in the topics tab.
Mhm.
And when it's like create the most important topics, do you want this to be a chat channel? Yes, no. And people can still use topics in their posts, and they can be used for searching and like finding data, just like a hashtag, but not just automatically creating a chat channel. That seems like a really clear, great improvement. Krisha.
I'm not sure how many people are aware that topics are chat channels, or topics can be chat channels.
Probably
What
very
if-
few.
So
Yeah.
what if instead of nesting chat channels under topics, we make that a separate entity so that it's clearer in the admin panel?
Yeah, it could be a different place in the admin panel,
Right.
like
Well,
a
we just
chat
have to
tab.
disambiguate between what a topic is and what a chat is.
Yeah, and I would say like thinking about the sidebar, we don't have to have like topics, fish, chickens, whatever. It could literally just be like hashtag fish, hashtag chickens.
Yeah.
And it's like at the same visual hierarchy as events, projects.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, why do we want to keep the hashtag?
I mean, we don't have to, but if someone posts using that hashtag, it would go into the chat channel. Like, I think that would still happen.
See, I guess I hadn't even gotten to a place where I thought we were going to enable the creation of more chat rooms.
Yeah, no more chat rooms.
I mean, we can. But you were just saying that we would allow stewards to create chat rooms if they wanted to.
Stewards could create chat channels.
And I'm saying I'm not even sure if we want that in this next version or need that.
If we just want to have the general chat, I'm fine with that.
Well, the deeper thing that I think we do want is the customization of the sidebar,
Yes.
which is like some groups want 5 chat rooms. Some groups want the single chat room and for the posts to be organized as they come in. Some groups won't care about the chat rooms and will be all in the projects. They're going to create a project and start making tasks and assigning it to people and discussing those things. And the thing that weaves all those together is the flexibility of this primary menu that allows members to access the content of the group. And if that menu is flexible enough and powerful enough, Hylo can adapt and evolve to meet the needs of whatever the group needs to coordinate. So that would include adding maybe specific discussion posts to the sidebar. And so on.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think my hypothesis or proposal or idea is that instead of creating new chat rooms, you would just create a subgroup, and that would be the new chat room. And add that to the sidebar.
Yeah, well,
But what if you don't want to go into a whole separate space to have a conversation and you don't need all of the stuff that comes with a group just to have a conversation? Sorry, Vivek, I know you have your hand up. You're next. Just want to hear from Vivek.
Yeah,
Like, why does it need to be its own group?
Well, this is the question. It's like a group. What's the difference between a group and a chat room? The way if we make subgroups just so much faster and easier to create, it's like then it's just like a general conversation space is just a group. We would need to think through like how do you create one that is like entirely contained as a subgroup more quickly maybe than because a chat room wouldn't need a different like image and banner image and
Agreements, a purpose.
yeah.
all
There's
that.
a lot of overhead with creating a group.
Well, it doesn't have to be hard, and we want to make it easy, but we also need to make it need those tools available for the people who need them.
Mhm.
The
Well, Vivek was waiting
oh yeah, sorry,
to just
Vivek.
in case.
Yeah, go ahead.
So I don't know if it's helpful for me to it's a bit more outside to just state where I've seen the user experience in my world, but so you're talking about chats within this sidebar, right? Would you still see like I know for both Hylo and Mighty Networks, for a while Mighty Networks wasn't doing this for group chat. They like in their initial redesign, but like nobody was paying attention to chats because it wasn't showing the little red thing in the upper right for a while. They fixed it, I think, in the past few months. I was just sharing that as a little user experience that I've seen. And then I know from my personal experience, like where there's a consistent group that meets, but this may be a demographic thing where just some people are old fashioned and still love to do things over email and it annoys me at times, or folks don't use like I guess there's this evolution of a group chat feature and you're trying to think about when does who creates it, right? You're talking about like the stewards create one that is worthy of being in the sidebar, I guess, right? Is one thing, is like a dedicated form of coordination. and yet people can still create their own little group chat. But it's just like, if I just want to say, okay, this is just me, Aaron, and Krisha or something like, and it's not associated to anything, can somebody still do that? Or like just to create a casual, okay, just
Yeah,
Just
well,
trying
then
to
these are the questions we're wrestling with right now.
Got
How hard does it need to be to create a group? What is a group really? And this is kind of where Tibet's question was. It's like, is it DM a group? Like if the three of me and you and Chris should hop on a message, is that sufficient for us to coordinate in some way? Or do we need more stuff? Do we need a purpose and a description and an icon and so on?
maybe
guess-
go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead.
Maybe it's just like, I don't have an easy answer to this because I see some groups that have become more in-groupy in a sense, for lack of a better term, and like I know a lot of things are happening on their Telegram that I'm not on, but I am okay with not being on there. And when they're ready, they say, okay, we're gonna finally make our website or make our group thing on or group thread on Lumia or something when we want more formality or something. I don't, this is like a whole question around group dynamics, and I don't have an answer for it. Like and sometimes everybody, when I talk to other people, I'm just like, yeah, they're kind of in groupy, and I can't force them to do anything else. It's just like, I respect that for them.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah, and we need to accommodate these different cultural styles as well.
Mhm.
And Tibet, I want to speak to you, what you were asking, and tie to what Vivek was just sharing, which to me is the thread is something like Hylo creates, it's like a third space for people. It's like a place to meet up and do things together, hopefully in the real world. And so the chat room is just, to me, it's like we give people under this new paradigm a beautiful building that they can put a front on, they can put some conference rooms inside of, or it could be more shaped like a workshop, or it could be like a community hall with a giant open space with a lot of seats in a circle, all looking at a podium in the middle. And anchoring it on the chat room to me is just, it's a space for people to do a specific type of thing, which is one of the more common things that people will do. So it makes sense to have it as this core component when people first arrive. However, some groups are going to be like, okay, now we need 20 conference rooms. Everybody go to your conference room with your buddy. And another group's going to be like, all right, this is just one big room. We're all in here together. Or at least that's my experience in the different Telegram and WhatsApp groups. And I think we do need to accommodate both ends of that spectrum, rather than being like, okay, now you need a name for this group and you need to invite people to it, and all to just get to the chat room. I don't know if that is a good response to what you were saying, but that's where my head was.
Yeah, well, I'm definitely open to custom created chat rooms. We just hadn't talked about it yet, and yeah, I think.
But what if it was simpler than that? Not custom created chat rooms, but the general chat when you first arrive is just a post type, or it's a discussion post type with the title is general, or general chat, or whatever we end up with.
Well, can it just be chat and not a discussion post?
I'm just saying architecturally, if it's a discussion post and discussion posts are chat rooms, then we can create new chat rooms.
Well, I think this is another question that I'm still not sure about, which is you're talking about getting rid of threaded comments and replacing them with a chat room. I just want to think through the implications of that and the pros and cons. I mean, they're different user experience. if we have chat rooms embedded in discussion posts, is each of the like chats a post? And then like what would happen if you click on that post? Like how do we get threading? It seems like we kind of lose threading. And also how would we manage the user experience of like posts and posts and posts? And what if we have like a discussion post in a discussion post in a discussion post? Like what would happen as you?
Yeah, I'm down to dive into that stuff. I noticed the time just now. Is there a community circle
Oh, yeah,
happening right now?
yes. Yeah, this was the end of our time. Oh my gosh.
All right, we gotta go join our community circle and
No,
rescue
no, no, I
Yasmin.
mean, it's just Yasmin and Christian and I. You guys can
Oh,
keep
okay.
chatting if you want to.
Okay.
Well,
one thing before we leave is let's move the Friday meeting to the afternoon so that
I thought we were just adding a new one.
oh, you're
We
right.
did that
You're
already.
totally right. I apologize. Hey, Vivek, just so you're aware, we'll be posting this in Hylo too, but we're gonna have another meeting tomorrow, 3 p.m. Pacific. Tom will be joining for that one, hopefully, and one on Friday at 10:30 a.m. Pacific.
Well, we're just getting into the crux of the matter, folks.
Yeah.
So we'll have to pick this up another time, but I like that we're teasing apart these issues.
Yeah.
And like really getting to the core of it all.
Yeah.
Cool. Okay, thanks everyone.
Bye.
Okay, till next time.
Peace.